Hey gang, we're live. How you doing? How you doing? This is your Sensei Al Bob. Good to see you. And here it is, Sunday, 1:30. Time flies. I was on the phone talking to a lot of folks and just seeing what's going on. And hey, there you three. And I want you to know that all it takes for you to have a good life is to be nice to others. You know, the secret to being happy is making others happy, right? Now, there are all these terrible things going on, and all these evil people that we're seeing in front of us. Well, someone told me that when I said, they represent, um, the gestalt of what's, environmentally going on all around us. Oh, they're terrible people. You can't excuse them. I'm not excusing anybody. There's this thing called karma. We're responsible for everything we do, right? Like me, your Sensei Alba. Don't believe a word I say. I don't want you to believe anything I say. Hey, Jamie, good to see you. Yep, I did. Jane, good to see you. And it's, the first person to fix is ourselves. I'm why the last 6 years of my life has been the way it is because the universe has given me these opportunities to learn things. Hey, I died in a plate of spaghetti. I woke up on a gurney heading for the operating room where they were going to chop my legs off and rip open my guts and repipe me. And I said, no, I don't want that. That's why I kind of popped up. I mean, they already given me a sedative and I've been unconscious since I fell into the plate of spaghetti. But I said no. And luckily, my employer, one of the world's most famous lawyers, was right there. Everyone knew this guy he was beyond being a shark. And I said, see that guy over there? If you touch me, other than rolling me back into the ICU, he's going to sue. He's going to own you, your children, your great-grandchildren. So roll me back into the ICU. I don't want to be in the operating room. But I said, I don't need anything. So he came in and says, what's going on? I told him to operate. I said, no, these clowns don't know squat. They'll kill me. And if I die, I won't be able to negotiate that contract for you. So he said, what do you need? So I gave him a list of, I needed a colonic, I needed a acupuncturist, I needed a dietitian, I needed an endocrinologist. He got me the best ones, right? And he put me in his house right on the beach. And took a month for me to get well enough to go back to his office and negotiate. He got a stay from the judge, and I finished up with him, and got what he wanted. And then he put me up on his other house down in the Keys, really nice one that had his staff. Thus, I spent the winter instead of up at the school. I spent it there, and I recuperated, right? And I realized I had to change my life. So I did. And that was 2014, and from 2014 and now, 6 years, I lost 270 pounds, right? Not through any magic diet or anything. I changed my life, right? I'm living out in the woods where I have to go, walk up and down this mountain 5, 10, 15, 20 times every day. Because, my box is here, my garage is there, my bus is there, and I go between them, right? And I have no money. The only time I spend any money, because like this place, this is 20 miles from my front door. So I have to, that's 40 miles. And for my vehicle, that's $3 worth of gas. I need a better car. But it's getting me from A to Z, so I love my car. And Jamie, for all I've known research, and I'm subscribed and the bell rings and I go watch this thing and I always give him a thumbs up. But I, for the love of me, can't find his channel. Hey, Lena, good to see you, girl. I can't. How do I? So if I'm watching his video, how can I go look at his channel? And I've gone on to the little hourglass to look for something, and I put in his name, and Anyway, so today, what are we talking about? We're talking about changing our own life, right? And I'm also talking about what we are looking at in our present government structure. Now, Donald Trump. I mean, some people. Oh, I have a whole bunch of friends who hate his guts, and he's the worst thing since Lucifer. No, every single president we have basically been Donald Trump. And have done terrible things to us, we the people. Starting with, go back to Woodrow Wilson. That guy started Jim Crow. The first movie played in the White House was Birth of a Nation. He started up, from his little racist, misogynist town of in Virginia. What's it called? It's right up there at the top, right up there. Where it goes into Pennsylvania, and it's kind of where the first women's mental correctional institution is, and it's where this great, unbelievable, brilliant guy had an amazing retreat. Way better than anything that Edgar Casey had, and what was the name of it? Oh, it'll pop into my mind. It was right on the Blue Ridge Parkway. And this guy was an amazing sculptor, amazing everything. And he, trigonometry and modern math, algebra, were designed to describe certain environments within the construct of the dark world of physics that we can't really see or understand. And us mud puppets are very limited because we only have 6 senses. Our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, feeling. We only get to see 0.06% of the universe. And it wasn't until they started to measure the gravitational essence of the universe that they said, wait a minute, there's a lot more to this universe than what we can see, even with our beautiful space-based telescopes, And that's when they realized, dark matter, right? And people like the Greeks, Pythagoras, he figured that out, right? Euclid. The only math that I really use is geometry because it's the king of all math. The rest are made up. When I was an electrical engineer, I used to do field equations in my head because it's actually very simple. But if you do it the way the textbook does it, it's like, root canal without Novocaine. And, that's why I, didn't make it in electrical engineering school. I had to go to the alternative technology school, which was way more fun, way more interesting, way more free, And when I graduated there, I actually got an EE degree because all my work was, electrical generation and, high fluidic transformers, torsion field transformers, And the work I did at 17 and 18, people wrote about and got famous for. And that's one of my things. If I have any great gift is to be in the right place, the right time, take advantage of it, right? And taking advantage doesn't mean for me, it means to serve that point in time with within the construct of love's co-creation, right? I was going to bring a book of photos of events that we did in the 80s, and we're totally that, right? And I got this way of being from growing up in Harlem, as a little boy. And all these people everyone was trying to make it. It wasn't just black people. Second Avenue, every 3 blocks was a different nationality. I just had a conversation with my brother, who I love dearly, right? But for 40 years, he was, partners with my father and my brother. My brother's very interesting, amazing guy. And too bad he didn't let himself be the amazing, amazing guy that I know. But he did because he was with my dad and, servile to my father's uh, patriarchal oligarchy motif of misogyny. And what is misogyny? Misogyny is when men can't relate to women. They don't understand that. In one of my things, I said, it's time for us to grow up and grow a pair of ovaries, guys. When your little egg gets fertilized and you drop and attach yourself to your mother's womb, there's about 3 to 4 weeks where you are a woman. All those fertilized eggs are female, right? And it isn't until the blast of hormones that comes down that decides whether you're going to be a guy or a girl, right? And that blast isn't all, it's not like a light switch. Yes, no, you have guy, girl. No, it's, there's all different levels of how much of that hormone. So that's why we have transsexuals. That's why we have homosexuals. That's why we have all of these things, because it's the variant. And these folks aren't, evil. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that being homosexual is evil, right? Doesn't really talk about it, right? So everybody who's, born again Christian who goes on about it's not Adam and Steve. No, sorry guys, And were you there? Do you know whether it was Adam and Steve? It could have been, But so when I was brought home from the hospital, my dad had just quit from being in the Air Force because he was never going to be a general, never going to make the big bucks. My dad wanted to be a millionaire, and my mom wanted to. She enjoyed being, the wife of the colonel. She had servants, had the big house, had a chauffeur, blah, blah, blah. But she had to make all the clothes. She had the money to buy clothes, which she liked doing. And so when I was brought home, and my mom had me when she was 45 in 1950, that's like unheard of. And she was drinking like a fish and smoking. My mom would smoke 2 cartons of cigarettes a week. But she was a Capricorn, she was a triple Capricorn. So she quit 3 different times. And not just she said, okay, like when she found my brother stealing the cigarettes, she stopped smoking. I'm not going to have him around. She just, I never knew anyone to just, except my mom, right? Same with booze. She used to keep Manhattans in the fridge. And she had a Kool-Aid pitcher that had 2 things. And one hot, summer day, I came in the fridge and she had this big Kool-Aid cooler full of Manhattans, right? And it's a cocktail to knock you on your butt. And she had it on the sweet side. So I took the whole thing, glug, 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 drank a gallon of, whatever a Manhattan is, and got alcohol poisoning. But boy, it was like doing LSD, mushrooms, and X at the same time. And she stopped drinking right then and there, Now, every so often she would, but years would go by. And then when it would seem to be safe, my brother's no longer, he's like in college, I don't smoke. No one's there. She starts smoking again, right? After, I don't really drink. I'll drink. I like a nice glass of red wine with dinner, maybe 2. I love a single malt. I love, Paddy's Irish whiskey, but 1, When I lived in Dublin, going to Trinity, guys would drink tons of that stuff because the distillery was, the bar I hung out was the distillery of Paddy's, right? So, but I'd only, Archie would drink a whole bottle and I would have 1 glass. So, he's the guy who knows, but I'd have to drag him home. She's no fool. Exactly. And Jamie, Jamie, have you ever read or seen the movie The Day After Tomorrow? It was written by Art Bell and his buddy. That was the book. And then the book was made into a movie. And it's exactly, Art had this radio show, brilliant radio show, Maury or Moron or Norris, whatever his name is. But Art Bell was one in a million. There was nobody like him. And he was a great interviewer. He would let the guest talk. He wouldn't interrupt. And he would, the guy would talk, and when the lull was there, Art would hit you with a really, the most important question. So he wrote this book called Day After Tomorrow. So starts with our hero is up in the pole and it's melting and the permafrost is coming up and there's a little flower out in the middle of the pole and they got all their instruments and they're doing borings and sending up balloons, and then the whole thing cracks and half of his team is on one side of the crack and the other's on the other, and while the crack is small enough for you to jump over because the helicopter could pick them up there and there. They don't need to all be in the same place. So a couple guys jump over, but there's two guys who go, ooh, and the crack gets bigger and back. Like I said, they could have waited for the helicopter to come and get them, but they jump, but that's a movie, right? So they go back, and this guy's got a Nobel Prize, and everybody wants to talk to him. And he's telling them, hey, something's really wrong. We better really look at this. And, we should, they don't use the term global warming, but they said, things are going, we can tell you what's happening now. We can't tell you why. We can kind of say maybe we should stop doing what we're doing. That's the one variable. Long story short, he goes up and he becomes person non grata. The oil companies hate him, blah, blah, blah. And, oh no. And so what happens is all of that ice is melting and it's super duper pure, right? And billions of gallons, and not just raising the coastal waterline, but it is desalinizing the Atlantic Ocean. And the reason why the East Coast and the Gulf of Mexico and Ireland and England and, Europe, France, Sweden, all those places are habitable because the Gulf Stream goes up and washes through them. So, Jamie, you're in Ireland, the west coast of Ireland, the Rings of Kerry. I mean, the east side of Ireland is dark and gray because it's facing the North Sea. But the west side of Ireland faces the Gulf of Mexico. There are palm trees on the west coast of Ireland, right? So, and that's why I lived there, because it was beautiful. I loved it. And nobody went there. It was, East Coast, there were a lot more people anyway. So, yep. See? Jamie's there. He knows the truth. So, but when the Atlantic becomes, and it's happening, and it's called the train, right? And there are these vortexes that go from the Gulf of Mexico along the East Coast up through Newfoundland to Ireland, and they swirl clockwise. So, along with the way the planet's turning, and they're slowing down. And when they stop, the train, the warm water from Africa that comes down across South America and through the Gulf of Mexico up along the East Coast and out into Ireland, that's going to stop. And forget about, global warming. It's the ice age that's coming. And notice no one's talking about the ice age. And I would say it's going to come a lot sooner than people think, right? So, that's kind of the story. Everything is happening right in front of our faces, but we're being distracted by guys like Donnie Trump and all the selfish attitudes of the rich and famous, and guys like Bill Gates. He is trying to make a transhumanist world. I don't know how many years ago it was, probably around 2008, when I'm still taking care of my folks, and I would take these road trips. And my parents would start to be, I would just hit the road. Because I had a lot of friends all over the place in Florida. Because being 30 years in Florida, I got to know a lot of folk. So, and where I went, I kind of built communities. I was like hey, why don't we do this, kids? Just like I want to take the show on the road. And gang, anybody in America. So I'm leaving here. It's still not winter yet. and yet it was 9 degrees below zero um, all last week, and just this, you know, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, did it get up to like zero, and during the day, 38, and then Friday it was 48, and then yesterday it was 55, and today it's supposed to get even warmer. So I'm out of here, and I'm just heading south, and I'm going to hook up with anybody who wants to start the circus. And there are a number of people who have mentioned, oh, let's do it. So I'm going to call their bluff and show up, and help them manifest it, right? And then any of you who live, between South Carolina, our little trip's going to be South Carolina, Georgia. I want to go to Jekyll Island. I love Jekyll Island. And anytime before, New Year's, really January 10th is off season. So you can get some nice rooms on that island for not that much. And I know a bunch of hotel owners, so because I've been going there for years. So if I show up with a school bus, full of, hey, let's do a circus, like the big Jekyll Island Hotel. I know the guy who runs that place. And I said, why'd you hire us to entertain, for Christmas, New Year's, and, through the 10th, that's when the crowds show up. And he might even just go for that. Put us up in nice rooms, give us some money, give us free food. So that's the first stop. Then some places in Florida. And then, and there's so many people who talk such a good game, oh, I'm all into sustainability. Yeah. But so there are a whole bunch of people who talk a good game. And, they're part of the 40,000 who watch but don't really comment. And they get a hold of me on my Gmail. And remember, gang, you want to get a hold of me at thedudeawake42 at Gmail. And, I have my PayPal. I'm now going to go on the road, so I'm going to need some financing. So anybody who wants to try, and it works, and you don't need my name. Lots of other people have done it. So if they can do it, you can do it. You just go to that site, go to the PayPal, put in whatever you want, use your, card, and it works. I know it works. Lots of people have done it. So that's, we're past the test period. Now, everything changes. Like I keep getting bugged by YouTube saying, oh, we're going to change, December 10th, we're changing everything. You better get a hold of us. You may not be able to do your thing anymore after December 10th. I've done enough shows, I'm more than 700. And there was 350 subscribers. Now it's only 347. It's like, but I don't care. I got more shows up there than most people done in the last 20 years, and I've done it in less than 15 months. So that's why I keep telling you, go get yourself a dartboard and, get 3 numbers and watch the other ones, And virtually every show I do, I go into shamanic state before I do it. That's why this show is so, yummy, and you really like it. And of the 40,000 people, I ever since I found your site, I don't watch TV anymore. I don't go on the internet. All I do is, let your shows run in the background. Well, good. Send me some money. But what they are doing is they're getting off on the juice of the shamanic signal. Now, if you go back maybe 50 or so shows, when I was at the school and it's hard for me to do a guided meditation in the middle of a restaurant. So, so go watch the other, and put them on a thumb drive. So this is why I live here. Now I live about 20 miles from this place, but I only live about a half a mile to this lake. This lake's coast is 1,200 miles because they flooded Sawtooth Mountain Range. And so the water goes all the way around. So and they destroyed 2 towns when they did this without really caring what the 30,000 people who lived in them. They just said, "Oh, you better get out of here in about 2 weeks because it's going to be over your house." But and they took everything with eminent domain. Now they're building these pipelines. The tar sands from Canada, and the one that goes through the Black Hills. Let's take oil from Canada and take it all the way down to Texas and being put on ships and taken to China. That oil doing nothing for the American people. And so they have 2 pipelines they want to build for this. And one is already in service and has broken twice and destroyed thousands of acres. What's worse, trillions of gallons of drinking water. Even though those places out there are somewhat, inheritable, they still have water way down deep. It's like Gaddafi, in Libya. One of the things he did for his people was he dug these deep, 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 deep wells way past the surface aquifer to the deep crust water, which is the clearest, cleanest water, right? And he pumped it up, and he turned Libya into a Garden of Eden, right? And the first thing we bombed, was those wells. And then we bombed, all of the social infrastructure, hospitals, schools, highways, roads, bridges, power plants, transmission lines, had nothing to do with Gaddafi, right? So, and the people who revolted were just the same people who were ISIS, same people who were, the Mujahideen, the same guys who were. I remember when I was 6, and Werner von Braun was at my parents' house and got a little too drunk, and he's always going on about Hail Hydra, about what was going, after the war, Germany was bombed into the Stone Age, but we Nazis, we won. You Americans, you brought 70,000 of the most hardened Nazis. Hey, sweetheart, could I have another mint? A couple mints? Yeah, mints. My throat is getting a little mints. Thank you, darling. These are the best chocolatey mints. They are really good. They clear my throat really easily. I had cheese, and grilled cheese. They make a great grilled cheese here. And so, along with lobster bisque, $8. Couldn't beat it. I came in, sat down. They brought me hot water, right? And right then, about 20 minutes later, they brought me the lobster bisque, really hot like I like it, and the grilled cheese sandwich, really crispy. That's what it's, being a favored client. Anyway, that'll help my throat. And Werner said, so they hidden hand, that's where I got the term, not from me. Werner von Braun told me. And I'm like, Kevin, sitting at, looking up, I'm on the carpet, looking up at Werner von Braun, and he's drunk. And he's going, first it's the Cold War. Now we decimated Russia. The only thing keeping the Russians there. And he told me all about how Rockefeller and the Rothschilds and Mr. Arm & Hammer basically took, Lenin and Trotsky out of Canadian jails during World War I, brought them across the Atlantic and spirited them to Germany, where the Germans spirited them into Russia. Now, the Tsar at the time was our ally fighting the Germans in World War I. Well, we spirited, and we gave, the English gave Trotsky and Lenin $7 million in gold. And the revolution happened in 5 cities, right? Moscow, Leningrad, all of the 5 big cities. And anyway, so Werner kept going on about first it's the Cold War, then it's failed states, like Somalia, and Panama, and Venezuela, and you know, then Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, right? So, and that we would have these never-ending wars, at least 20 years, right? Now it's coming right up to 20 years, right? Then it was terrorism that would be parallel with that, and then we'd get invaded by aliens. And it goes, we're already out there. We've been out there, you know. The hidden hand has been out in space, you know, since the 1840s. And if you go look at airships in California, 1840s, you will see that there were a bunch of Germans came from Germany and did research right where Alamundo, right where Lockheed and the Skunk Works is right where these guys had their flying saucer club. Yep, exactly. So Russia was never, and the Germans. If you read Joseph P. Farrell's books, you know, um, he's a very good scholar of this period. He shows that the Germans had the atomic bomb, and the bomb over Hiroshima and Nagasaki were German bombs. We, at the time when Germans surrendered, we had less than 3 grams of U-235. We had the Oak Ridge plant going 24/7 for 2 years, and all we had with our little centrifuges was like nothing. And so the Russians delivered plutonium and U-235 in big gold and lead lined 55-gallon drums. Plus, atomic bomb needs nanosecond kind of response to trigger, right? And we didn't have it, and the Germans did. So all the triggers in both those bombs had little swat stickers on them. Right? Go read Joseph P. Farrell. So Werner's telling me all this at 7. And there are other guys. I met the General Curtis LeMay used to come to dinner. My mom hated, we got to smoke that, Curtis, smoke that cigar. The only person who could tell Curtis LeMay what to do was my mother. He was scared of my mom. Everyone was scared of my mother. Even Cardinal Cushing was scared of my mother. And so, well, my mom was cool if you stayed on her good side. After I had one little I'll kill you. That's when and she made me sleep in the garage for 6 weeks, right? And she didn't even, my dad brought a soggy cushion for me to sleep on, and my dog and I slept curled up with each other in the garage. And luckily it was the spring, because a couple of days, after that, all I did was I made a little clubhouse out in the back 40, which was much nicer. And so that's how I roll. Someone tries to punish me, or I'm in an environment that people think, oh, that's so terrible. Well, Hitler was basically your basic poster boy. He was no, what is Donald Trump, a lucid genius or a stable genius? No. Adolf Hitler was just, he was sent there as a spy, by the police, and the police were run by the Illuminati. And so that whole thing was, how could they go from a crush, the day after Versailles, Germany was in depression for 20 years. And then they go from it cost a zillion drachmas to buy this much of bread, No. And then they become a world-class economy in 2 years? No. Now they did all the right things. They got rid of the central bank. They printed their own money. All the stuff that if we did, we'd be fine. And again, Hitler was just a sock puppet. They all were. The people really run the show where the not even the moron who started the SS, but there was that whole thing that Captain America defines exactly what was going on. That there was an entity like the Red Skull, Hail Hydra, beneath all of that ran all of that, the hidden hand. I mean, freshly baked bread with, I make the butter here with goat cheese and honey, and goat milk and honey. So nothing, if I say nothing I say, don't believe anything I say. Right? So I spent 40 years getting paid looking at long-term trends. Right? Every kind of trend you can imagine. Planetary natal trends, economic trends, technological trends. I realized, Grandpa Stahl, my mentor in electricity, was Nikola Tesla's first bench electrician. Manufactured virtually every, physically made all the devices that Nick thought up in his mind. So I've had the gift of insight. I've had the gift of being in the right place in the right time. But and I don't shy away from it. I just jump straight into it. So there were a bunch of people next to me who were all teachers, right? And we started talking, and I basically did a cold reading of, first I said, so what you guys have? And I said, just by what you had, I can tell everything about you. And they kind of look at me, and I said, so you're all school teachers, you're all tenured school teachers in your life. And then I went around the table, and I said, what are you? And I said, I'm an itinerant scholar. And three of them went, huh? And one of them said, oh, I know what you're talking about. Well, you're the guy I was at HCSU, and the smartest guy there wasn't a tenured professor. He did research, and he would come and go. And I went to ask, who is that guy? And they said, he's an itinerant scholar. And I said, so what happened to that guy? Well, oh, he died homeless. Well, I'm a little luckier than that. At least I get the Cadillac camp. Yep. When we went, like James was talking about, here for World War II, we kind of, knew what was going on. So we went to their, South Pole, and we went there with a hard crew of, two aircraft carriers, destroyers, lots of muscle, like 2,000 Marines, and the Germans just ate us alive, ran us right out of there like that. And then a few years later, we have the United States. We have the National Defense Act of 1947, which basically corporatized America. And that whole corporatization of America started back in 1871. Go look up HRS 1871. And what is that? That's when we created the District of Columbia. And there's three places on this earth that are separate entities from the countries that they're in. There is the Vatican in Rome and in Italy, and it's a private entity unto itself. There's the city of London in London. So Vatican is the most powerful political entity on the face of the earth. Second most powerful is the Bank, of London, and third most powerful is District of Columbia, and that basically administers the War Department, the little satanic symbol called Pentagon. And my dad knew General Groves pretty well, and he was another person who would visit. And it was all a corporate thing. All those, even though they were wearing uniforms, they represented companies. There's a Colonel Butler, who is most decorated soldier in American history, World War One, and he wrote a book after he retired and really put it straight up. There's another guy named Quigley, who is the historian for the Council on Foreign Relations. And the Council on Foreign Relations was started by Cecil Rhodes, where he had this thing called the Round Table, right? The Circle of Majority. What's the other one? And these were all the same thing. The Pilgrim Society, but they were that was what they started out, and then Circle, and then, So, this is all, like Shakespeare said, the world is a stage. You know why he had the Globe Theater, right? And we're all players, right? And there's more mystery in your stars than you know, right? That's why Plato said, to a wise man who is guided by the stars. It's a fool who is led by. So, the hidden hand, what do you think invented astrology? Right? So, if you go to my blogspot, Griot Publishing, xratted.blogspot.com, and you see all my cuts, all these little short stories, and they're all parts of novels I'm writing. My newest thing is Moral Majority, Black Widow Spider, Hot Pants, Family Values. And there's about, 60 pages there. And what that is the summer, I've been sitting in my hammock, listening to the waterfall fall behind me. And so getting out of the school, I gave most of my books to a friend of mine who sold them on the internet. And he gave me a nice little cut of what he made, not what he made, but he took them all and put them on the internet and did all the hard work. And he's my bud, so he still gave me some cash. And but I kept about 300. And I really, in the beginning, after I sold the school, to think that I would get out of there with all this. I mean, to go to that video that John put up, where he took probably the most sacred thing I had left there, was this little sacred box that Madame Olga Kluver gave me back in the 60s. And it had the first jewelry made by Tiffany, made from plastic. The guy doesn't even know what it is. Now he's going on about, how am I going to pay my bills? Man, if he put that up on eBay. And the real amazing thing, if he does, it will unleash unbelievable magic against the boy, and not of my doing, all of his doing. And that is, someone was going on, John is so evil, so terrible, because, he is the guy who, who's the yo-yo guy who put up. I don't even look at it. Other people, have you gone and seen that guy? He's the troll he's got, he's like going on about, saying the worst of the worst and wanting to kill me, blah, blah, blah. Why would anybody want to kill me? Especially someone who don't even know me, who just kind of met me on the internet for a moment or two. It's like, really? Of course it's John, But no matter how despicable John seems, he is hurting himself worse and worse. Like one of those latter ones he did last week, where he starts out in the room that I used to sleep in. Of all the rooms, there's this one little cell. It's about 8 feet wide by 9 feet. Has one big window that looks to the west. And so when the sun comes up in the east, it lights all the trees up. So it's like it wakes you up with this golden glow in the room. Really beautiful. And of all the rooms in that gigantic place, This is the only one that does done on a gigantic heat pump, which Johnny Boy does. And so I don't have to do anything. And I learned all my experiences. There is a jerk. You just get out of the way and they will destroy themselves. Like when I was at the Catholic seminary and people go, oh, school was so hard for me. Oh, I was body dysmorphic and people picked on me. Well, man, when I was at the seminary, there was a group of young Turks. There was 8 of us. And we were Mission Impossible. It was the first year of Mission Impossible. And we called ourselves the Mission Impossible Force. There was Igo. There was the 2 brothers. These were 2 white Jewish boys who were reincarnated black slaves. They could play blues like you couldn't believe. And they always wore, they were the original Blues Brothers, right? I mean, we were all supposed to either wear cassocks. I mean, if you're going to be a priest, you wear a cassock. If you're going to be a military guy, you wore a uniform. If you're going to be a businessman, you wore 3-piece suits. Not these guys. Black pants, white shirt, black jacket, black hat, sunglasses. And they played blues. And so in our room, it was just like straight out of Harry Potter. The dorm, they had the big commons room and then the big dining room. That was just like Harry Potter, right? And you went up these 2 staircases, and this side was all the freshmen. And on each floor, around that staircase, it went out into 4 different directions. And it had their own, it was like a big space, and there were little niches at your bed, and you had a desk and a closet, and you shared a bathroom. About 6 guys, right? And the 6 of us, we were that. So it was Igo, this little shrimpy guy, glasses this thick, and he was a genius. And he was just thinking about, things that most people, about astrophysics and time and space, and and he didn't talk, right? He was a little Asperger, and so he instead of saying, he just didn't say anything. And then there was the 2 Blues Brothers, and then there was Robert Kennedy's son Joseph, who was a real jerk, and so within a matter of days, he got himself transferred out. He couldn't stand us. And then there was Scotty. He had red hair. Thank you, dear. You want me to help?
Yes, please. Thank you.
It's a team effort. And who else? There's Brad. His grandfather was General Bradley, the Bradley armored vehicles named after, and he was dead. So Brad got to go to when they hit the champagne bottle over the tank, and he was going to go to follow in his whole family's footsteps. They had generals in his family since the Civil War. So that was Brad. And McVeigh, he was a curly-haired Irish guy, just crazed Irishman, and he was a soccer player. He was the most athletic amongst us all. So it's not so much. And and Hugh Hinman, his parents owned the largest paper company in the world. His grandma owned half of the Klondike, and so Howard was his real name, but everyone called him Hugh. I don't know why, but they did. And so we were, we just hung together, and we didn't care what people said. We didn't even listen to what people said. And so we were playing, soccer when that was the only sport we played, soccer, right? We didn't play football, we didn't play lacrosse, we just played soccer. This ball went up on the senior terrace, and Mac, the guy with red hair, ran up there to get our ball, and the seniors grabbed him and beat the ever-living everything out of him, and then painted him with oil-based paints, blue, our school color, and he nearly died of skin poisoning. He went into the nurse's place, and obviously something was more than she could handle. He went to the hospital. Then he had to go to Sloan Kettering, and we never saw him again. And those seniors did not get punished one iota because they had this thing called fagging, meaning seniors, juniors could treat sophomores and freshmen like slaves. We had to, shine their shoes, do it. We did all the work. And after a couple of weeks, after Mac, was never to be seen again, and no one got punished, and we were really upset about this. The freshman class was 360 kids. Now, sophomore class was about 100, junior class was about 80, senior class was about 60. So we freshmen outnumbered pretty much the rest of the school. So I said to a group, there was the Mission Impossible crew. We picked about another 40 guys who were really pissed off about the four, come on. So what we decided, we were going to go to the gym, baseball bats, and these kind of dumbbell things. And we were going to, have 8 freshmen for every senior, and we were going to sneak into there and put ourselves around them. And at 3 a.m, when we set our watches, we would just start beating the seniors senseless because they'd be asleep, and we'd outnumber them, and we'd get in a number of good hits. Hit the head first. And too bad not everyone could set their watch, because one group set their watch incorrectly and started whacking theirs. A good 10 minutes before half of us were even snuck into the rooms that we were supposed to beat up our senior. And then once they were awake, those guys were big enough to throw 6 kids out of their way. And this one guy got up, pulled the fire alarm, went off. And then they started flinging kids. This building was 4 stories high. And they swinging kids through glass windows, put about 30 of us in the hospital. And that night, the dean of discipline, this really nasty Jesuit priest, grabbed. I was assigned. They had no proof, but they said he's the leader. So they got me, tied me up on fire pipes, and beat me. Broke my ribs, broke my hand, broke my elbow. It didn't hit me in the face. Broke my foot, my left foot. That's why it's screwed up. That's why I have Charcot legs. And that's why my lungs, my broken ribs, it was not good for my lungs. And left me there, bleeding, broken, hanging from, it was like hanging from, like this, right? Nothing happened to those guys. And that's when I went to war. That guy had polio. I snuck into his room. He put blocks on this thing. That's where I learned how to pick locks. He opened the door, went in and sawed all his canes and crutches in half, and then glued them back with super glue, and then covered them up so he couldn't see the saw thing. And they'd be fine when he was walking on a flat plane. But when he went down the staircase, the stress on him was 6 times what they were on a flat plane. They'd snap and he would fall down the staircase. And the thing, finally, we just tit for tat, He would do this to me, I would do that to him. We just went up and up and up. And it would take another 3 hours for me to tell you that story. But go back. I've told it the full Monty of that story. But the last thing, my PA resistance, it was February or so, and he was going to visit his brother, who was another Franciscan priest, down in Virginia, and he was going to go across the Chesapeake Bay Tunnel, just had opened, right? And so I went in because I was working. One of the punishments, I had to work in the kitchen, I had to serve food, and I had to milk the cows. So I got up at 3 a.m, and I went to bed around midnight, right? Besides going to school, I had to do all this other work. And so I got a box of sugar cubes, and I wrapped them up in, not cellophane, but that clingy kind of stuff. And I shoved it into his gas tank, right? The day that he was going to leave, he was going to leave in the afternoon, around 11 in the morning. I kind of got that, everyone was in class, everyone wasn't around. I went to his car and I stuffed a whole box of sugar cubes wrapped up in cellophane into his gas tank. So he leaves around 4, a couple hours after I've done this. He gets on the road. He's zipping down. He gets, it's now he's starting to go over this 22-mile Chesapeake Bay Tunnel bridge, and it's 3 in the morning, darker than dark. It's snowing. It's sleeting. It's like super cold. A northeaster is hitting me. It's wind, and right in the middle, his engine seizes like this. And they got no place, it's like narrow little thing. Every 10 miles there's a place you can pull over and there's a phone. Well, he's 5 miles to the closest one. He's wearing black. He's got crutches. It's snowing, it's sleeting, it's a northeaster, and he has to hobble and big trucks. And that morning, the headmaster comes and gets me out of class and goes, "Okay, Al, you're leaving school." I said, "What are you talking about?" Because, Father so-and-so nearly died on the Chesapeake. "Oh, he did? What happened?" He goes, "You know what happened. You stuffed sugar in. The highway patrol took his car apart. The engine was seized because the only person who would have done that was you. And we can't prove it. No one saw you do it, but he's going to come back and kill you. Now, my boss, the cardinal, who got you into school, if anything really bad happens to you," I said, "What are you, breaking my ribs and my arm?" Because, he thought that was a little excessive, but it was like, character building. Anyway, she goes, "I'm taking you, get your stuff. Actually, I've gotten somebody to go get your stuff. You're staying here with me. As soon as your stuff gets here, we're getting in my car and we're driving into New York, and I am leaving you with your godfather." See, I'm getting into the interesting stuff here, gang. And YouTube is your connection is okay. So everybody who wants me to email them, email me first, the dudeawake42@gmail. Then I can really come back. But I try to get you guys off the chat here, and I never say, I don't know how to do it. And I barely, to even read this stuff, I gotta, wear 4 pairs of glasses, Yep. I was really good with the 2 little things. I saw it in, I got most of my training by watching Mission Impossible. Creepy pasta? Who's creepy pasta too? Let's keep it on pasta. Creepy. I'm a Italian, so I got pasta in my DNA. So I'm always in the right place at the right time. I always to that opportunity. I'm always like 10 to 30 years ahead of my time. So I realize this. And so I don't care. My wife, I don't know if you've ever seen the track lights that are on 2 wires, right? Because back in the day, I'm a theater lighting designer, and a T12 was a lamp that went into a Fresnel or a Lico, that it had a base that went in, and it positioned the element so you got the most out of the light, right? And so the only light bulb that did that was an aircraft, what is known as PAR 34, which is a parabolic reflector. So the lamp is like, this, the parabolic reflector, and then the element is here, and in front of it is another parabolic. So the light hits that one, bounces to this, and comes out as a beam. It's called the sealed beam. And about 4 other kind of lamps of that nature. And there was no fixtures for them that you could put in anything. So what I did was I would take number 10 wire, and they were all 12 volts, right? And so I would get solid number 10, and put it on insulators, and then put on springs that I could latch to make it be real tight. And then I had the lamps that had screws, that would fork connectors would go to them. And I would put, again, number 10 wire, and I would twirl it around my finger and put an alligator clip on it, right? And so I would alligator clip those two wires of the lamp to that thing, and then it would hang down. And because it was, a twirl, I could move the light bulb and it would stay there, right? So it could be aimed at stuff like mirrored balls and paintings and straight down at bars. And it looked kind of cool. These wires going through the air with no insulation and these curly wires with alligator clips. And anyway, so I did that at a lot of bars, a lot of art galleries, a lot of discos. And some company starts with an L. They were in Long Island Lighting. And a friend of mine's uncle was a designer. And he brought his uncle to one of my clubs that had a grand opening. And the guy, had his little notebook and, sat at the bar with me for a good hour, having me explain where I got the idea, how I did it, did anybody else do it, da-da-da-da-da. And they went off. Lucas? No. You have to think. But anyway, they, and 6 years later, they came out with a product, and you see them all over the place. Now it's pretty dated. You don't see it that much. But in the 90s and early O's, it was everywhere. The cool lighting, right? And my first wife, Donna, she goes, that was your idea. You should get it. I have to say that those people were very nice. They owned Eagle Electric. And when just before they came out with this, my friend said, hey, my uncle wants to talk to you. So got his phone number. Guy took me out to a really nice lunch. And he goes, remember that, 3 or 4 years ago when that place opened? And I asked, I invented, so it's totally different than what you got. But I said, oh, really? And he showed me, their glossy flyer. And I said, well, it's just like exactly, except, you made it a little safer, UL approved. He goes, yes. So are you going to sue? I said, not one, please. And he goes, well, my nephew said you'd be that way. And he hands me an envelope. And in the envelope are a lot of, not Benjamins, but the next highest up, McKinley, or it starts with an M. I think the 5 said, I want you to come by our office in Long Island City, and I want you to, talk to our product managers and, give us some feedback on what we've done before we kick this, because you're an electrician, you basically invent this, and I said, well, that's very nice. I'd love to. So I do. And I go and I give them a few little heads up on this, that, and the other thing about it. And they go, oh, yeah, well, how old? Well, didn't even think about that. Oh, that's a good idea. Then he takes me up to not the head, CEO, but the next guy, right? The president of that division. And, he goes, we'd love to hire you. I said, well, that's very nice. And I feel very honored. I'd love to do it. We've got a couple of you guys here. I said, well, I'd love to be a consultant, give me a retainer. Oh, that's a great idea. So, that way you don't have to give me insurance or anything. Just every year until you don't need me anymore, maybe give me a little something when, while we retire. He said, oh, great idea. And he goes, not only that, and he hands me this letter, and he goes, you can come to they have, not only do they make light switches and every other Eagle made everything you could imagine. And everybody, all the supply houses sold that stuff. And, but they have their own outlets, just like Ranger does, right? And he goes, we have one here and we have one on 34th Street. And, these are the two in New York City. So go downstairs and I'm going to call the guy who runs that. And you introduce yourself, show him the letter, make, the introduction. I'm going to talk to the guy on 34th Street. And you'll have as much supplies as went to 34th Street, and the guy actually, a couple of days later when I went to, I called him up and said, hey, your boss said, oh yeah, he called up, I just down, and I said, we can't do it today, but how about let's have lunch. So he took me to the Palm Room, and I think the Waldorf Astoria or one of those big hotels. And then, a suite there, where they entertained. And so he said, "You ever want to use the suite? You can." So those are the kind of relationships I like. They don't have them anymore. Now it's more like, so that was more like gentleman business. Now it's more like gangsta, you know, gonna give you an offer, can't refuse, So, and so my last story of the day, in 6 minutes and 35 seconds, I want to talk about, the history of America. That most people, I grew up with black people. I was like Steve Martin in The Jerk. I thought I was black. I am black. I am African American. That's melanin challenge. So we were unstable there. So I'm just like Steve Martin. I'm an African American that has melanin challenge. So go to, let's see, what do you guys think? Oh, creepy. Yes. Jamie's talking about ice picks, saving his life, climbing. Yep. Hey, fish. Yes, impromptu piton. So creepy. You're a climber. So you're obviously not somebody too creepy because you're a climber. So I can, emulate, empathize. Been there. I'm not a great climber, but I've had to, at certain points, use that equipment and climb. So creepy. Did you ever get rim rocked? Why don't you explain to the audience what rim rocked is? It's your body. It's creepy. Don't get creepy with us, okay? Yes, getting rim rocked will get your creepy. You don't want me to have to blank you from this channel. You've just found it creepy. Have you become a subscriber? You're the kind of guy, the enforcer. Go, get a few hundred to subscribe to my channel, creepy. I'm looking at you shamanically, and you're not John Birmingham. And if you are just another one of John's multiple personalities. Now they don't call it multiple personality disorder, just something dissociative. The I is, yourself, your id disorder, VID disorder. So, creepy. I don't think you are one of John Birmingham's multiple personalities. And I'm seeing that you're not that bad a guy. And you might have questionable hobbies, but, So you are John Birmingham. If you're you're John Birmingham, creepy. And creepy, you're the guy who put that channel up there that's really disgusting. Come on. He's not a bad guy. but he's just obsessed with being a mean girl. And girl isn't a generic, frame of gender. We're all girls. Are. And it's, a lot of people have said that John is a waste of human space. We actually have to, and I keep saying this, and people, no, we can't feel sorry for John. I don't feel sorry for John, per se. He is cruel, he's mean, he's all those things. But he's been manufactured. That's why he's the canary in the coal mine, And why even waste time talking about him? Because that's what he wants. He wants somebody to pay attention to him. That's why he came on here, right? Because I hadn't really talked about him at all until he did the creepy thing, right? So, and it's because everything in our existence, all the things we do, we choose to do, and the diseases we may or may not have, we choose to have, and maybe not in this life or another life. It's a lot more complicated than most people can deal with. But, and that's why I keep saying we need to, create an alternative aesthetic, right? And so that's what we have to do. And that's why I do these shows, because I am actually showing you an alternative aesthetic here, right? So Jamie, so what do you think of creepypasta? And then John had to become creepypasta because he said he was you, and you, I pretty much knew he was Yo-Yo, and Yo-Yo is Johnny Boy, right? And that is the, dissociative utopian personality disorder. Our culture is manufacturing, And all the stories I tell you are stories, don't believe anything I say, but they shamanically reptunize, talking, moving forth. And in every day and every way, we take the peace of the earth and make it stronger. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy purposes, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil, as it was in the beginning, is now, ever shall be, world without amen. And everyone should, for everyone who is like John Birmingham, every, Donald Trump, every Steve, is it Mnuchin, the guy who's the bald head who looks like a scary monster, who's the guy who is basically, Steve Bannon, all these guys who are basically, they go after every innocent person they can, all the weak children and mothers on the border, and that's John Birmingham, he goes because he is so weak and impotent himself, he has to attack. Same thing with Donald Trump. And the reason why the hidden hand, it's not, a stone, a amorphic, thing that it's all in one place. Now there are different factions of the hidden hand. So some people want the end of civilization as we know it, that are all for the Georgia Stones, like Prince Philip. He said when he dies, he wants to come back as a virulent virus to wipe out humanity, so. And he's doing a pretty good job as it is. And because he was a good, that what he says, like David Icke, go watch his shows. They are really what's going on. Of course, don't believe a word he says. But here we are at 1 hour and 18 minutes and 37 seconds. So I kind of laid down a lot of things. I hope you enjoyed. And on 2020, I'm going to say, okay, see you later. Because I want to get back before the shadows get long. I still have things to do, errands to run. So you guys stay well, be good. I love you all. Until next time, okay? And Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for our sinners, now in the hour of our death. Amen. More thumbs up. Go to my Gmail account. Put something in my PayPal if you wish to. Oh, every one of you, even Creepy Pasta John Birmingham, and Donald Trump and everybody else. That's the only thing that truly exists is love. All the other things that those morons, those fracking morons, go on about. Right? And go look at my. I'm going to be dropping my new novel Monday or Tuesday, or sometime this week. Okay, so go take a look at that. And the little bit that's up there, the 60 pages, is gives you the flavor of what this, same as it ever. The name of the novel is same as it ever was, and don't believe anything I say. So I love you guys. Okay, there it is, 2020. I love you guys. Till then, till the next time, probably Monday. Nah, not Monday. Monday, maybe Monday. Tuesday, maybe. Who knows? But this week sometime. Okay. Come on. I kept wanting to end before. Come on. Hey, Google. End stream. Woo-hoo. Yo, yo. Yo, yo, yo. Let's see. Live stream, YouTube. Let's see. You can wait to become responsive or exit the page.